as a startup founders, we need to get out more, come to events like COP28, and be willing to share our burdens as well as our success stories with investors.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the How to Save the Planet podcast. I'm Jui.
And I'm Pratap.
And we're both from the Climate Collective Foundation. Climate Collective Foundation is a nonprofit based out of India. We work to support climate technology startups across India, Africa, and Southeast Asia. This podcast is in collaboration with Climate Tribe. Climate Tribe is driving climate action through dynamic storytelling. So we are at COP right now. We're in the green zone and we're shooting live from here. There's a lot of activity happening outside, a lot of hustle and bustle. And we are going to take this opportunity to talk to startups across the global south. Hi again. We are back with another episode of How to Save the Planet. We are here at COP28 at the Green Zone. And we have another startup with us, Z Motors. We have Olou Koucoi with us here. Please tell us what you do.
Hi, everyone. My name is Olou JP Koucoi from West Africa, Benin Republic. We are fast accelerating the continuous transition to electric mobility.
All right. This is very important, of course, electric vehicles. You told me something very interesting. I'd love to start with this. When you started, there were no electric vehicles.
Yes.
So how did this start?
Our background is in the energy sector, so solar energy. So our focus was the charging infrastructure, but there was no vehicle to be charged.
Right. You mentioned your background was in energy. You had another startup before this. Like, how was your journey till this startup? When did you decide to start this?
Thank you for that question. Yes, we started about around 2012 in the solar energy sector. When if you ever visited Africa, you realize that half of the population, so around like 600 million people, don't have access to electricity. Mm-hmm. So we started by tackling that issue. And today, so we launched Z Motors to allow the continent to move from fossil fuel-based transportation to greener transportation. So we are setting up solar charging stations for the vehicles, but since there's no vehicle, we started building vehicles ourselves, like 2 and 3 wheelers.
Right. And how is that going? Are you seeing people interested in this? Is it a hard sell to introduce people to an electric vehicle? As you know, like when it comes to EVs, people have sometimes worries. What if it doesn't charge? Range anxiety. These are standard problems in the EV rollout. Same problems you're facing there?
It started off 3 years ago with some challenges, but today I can say that in West Africa, like in Benin and Nigeria, it's picking up very well. East Africa as well, in Kenya and Rwanda, same thing. One thing to mention is that the governments in some of those countries are really enabling through policies the access to electric mobility by removing, for example, VAT duty on imports.
No, that's great. We see the same thing happening here, especially in India, where we do most of our support for startups. And very interestingly, we're seeing that in certain use cases, for example, electric three-wheelers or rickshaws, the economics make sense. People save money. Is it the same thing in Benin and in West Africa?
Yeah, since electricity is very cheap, it's lower cost than fossil fuel. On the operational side, it's cheaper to go with electric vehicle than the traditional petrol ICE vehicles. But the upfront cost of adopting electric vehicle make it a bit difficult for people to acquire. One thing that is important to notice is that when you remove the battery or like the charging process and people just own the vehicle as the same way they own a petrol ICE vehicle, then even the adoption cost is not a barrier anymore for adoption.
This is great because when costs become secondary, meaning people save money or it helps it's a business that's using, let's say, delivery, etc. Yeah. It's easier to deploy these solutions quickly as well. What are the big challenges you're facing, though? I mean, it sounds great, but I know that all startups go through.
Yes, it all sounds great. We still need to advocate a lot. We still need to host events like this to allow the public to understand that there's a new technology out, it's better for the climate, it's better for the pocket. So we need to do a lot of advocacy work, outreach work, but at the same time, we need a lot more government involvement to allow more and more countries to remove some of the barriers like VAT and duty for EV. And in so doing, when more people are importing or producing, then the cost of production is down. So more people can adopt.
I think in the climate tech space today that we're seeing, even in India, electric mobility is one of the fastest growing sectors. Everybody is supporting electric mobility and the transition, etc. What is the support that you are seeing in the ecosystem? I mean, you mentioned that governments need to be more aligned and help in reducing the barriers. But are you seeing support from the ecosystem, particularly investors, etc., for your space?
For the geographic area where we are working, it's a bit difficult to get climate investors behind our movement. But I will not just speak for Africa. I think in other parts of the world, like I was in China 2 weeks ago, there's I think around like 1 billion electric micro mobility in China. So the government is doing a lot, investors are doing a lot. I was in India a month ago, Bengaluru and Chennai. I saw a lot of like tricycles and two-wheelers there. I think the very service companies are investing a lot in the sector. So it depends on where you are on Earth, how climate investment or investors are sort of supporting the EV sector.
Yeah.
In America, same thing, a lot of investment. In Africa, it's not happening yet. But I think as a startup founders, we need to sort of get out more, come to events like COP28 and be willing to share our burdens as well as our success stories with investors.
Right, which is perfect. We're here at COP28 here in the UAE. Before I ask you the next question, Jui, do you have an electric vehicle, and why not?
No, I don't actually, and it's very interesting. When I was buying a car, the electric vehicle was much more expensive, and I couldn't afford it. I mean, to put it very bluntly, I did want to because of the space that I'm in. It's also good branding for me to have an electric vehicle, but it was way too expensive, so I couldn't. So I really hope that the prices go down because the capital cost is high. The one-time cost is high, even though it is cheaper in the long run.
Yeah, it's only in certain countries that it's taking off, while in areas like Africa, West Africa, I guess in particular, parts of India, we are still struggling. It'll happen. Maybe we need to figure out how. So you're here at COP, because you mentioned that getting more people involved, understanding the opportunity and the stakeholders that need to be involved. What are you aiming to get out of this visit to COP?
So is this your first COP?
Yes, it is my first COP, and we were lucky as a startup, Z Motors. We were lucky to be selected among 100 startups worldwide through New Energy Nexus, which is an organization based out of the US, selecting startups and inviting them to COP, but not just inviting them to COP28, but also hosting events and programs throughout the month of November, where speakers came and coached us on various topics. So some of the startups decided to come, whereas Z Motors, me and my co-founder, Christine Strong, we decided to come. One of the most important thing for us coming here was first to see what are the practical actions being taken by other organizations worldwide being invited here. And second, to expose ourselves to the network available, whether it's investors or organizations like Climate Collective or Climate Tribe, to be able to tell our story. And then from there, if we get investment, then fine. Otherwise, we can collaborate with other organizations and see as an ecosystem what we can do together.
That's great. I mean, that's what you should come to COP for the networks that you can leverage, etc. But I mean, we are at COP. He was there at COP last year. And this is my first COP as well. It's really hard to navigate, to find what you're looking for. There's just so many events here, so many people. How are you able to use your time effectively here?
What we did is, before coming here, we spent about a week sort of narrowing down the events what we want to attend, the conferences we want to attend, and also targeting some of the people we want to meet before the end of this conference.
So you were well planned.
Somewhat well planned, but it's never perfect, right? So we got here and then things start shifting around. For example, going to the blue zone, we thought we were going to meet more like private people, but there we met more of the politicians and public sector people, which is not our target. So we end up coming to the green zone. You plan ahead of time, but then when you land at COP28, it's another world, it's another story. It's so big and so many things are happening at the same time. So yeah, you just have to stay focused.
Right. And are people willing to meet up at COP? Like, did you set up meetings before? Like I'm guessing wanted to meet up with investors. Did you get your meetings? Are people willing to meet up with startups like you at COP?
It's a big surprise coming here, and with previous experience as an African traveling to the US or China or India, trying to meet investors. It's very difficult, right? So they give you maybe like coffee chat, it's like 2 minutes or 5 minutes max. And then based on the first impression, off they go, right? I will call you back, they never call back. But being here at COP, I've realized that people are from all over the world. Like all of the skin colors, race, gender, everything mixed together, ethnicity, everything. But people are willing to sit down, spend time, just get to know each other on a personal level, but at the same time talking about actions they are taking for the climate and listening to you, hearing your story and seeing what you guys can do together. And even though they might not be investing in your sector, oftentimes they know someone that you might meet that could help. So oftentimes we realize here after 3 days now that people are saying, hey, Olou, maybe you need to meet this a person that I know that works for this organization. They love to talk to you and they might be able to help. So yeah, this is like a perfect platform for people to get together and relax and talk to each other instead of the speed dating of meeting investors.
Yeah. Well, can you share with us your notes? We were trying to organize as well. But there is, of course, a lot of activity, and it's really important to, especially for startups that are starting to grow or need support from a wider community to come and network and meet all the stakeholders. I'm very surprised because actually, as Jui knows, at least India and Africa have a connection. And in fact, when many Indian investors or others come to Africa, it's a land of opportunity. So I do hope others see this same thing for Z Motors and Africa, where you're growing as well. Not that it's hard. Everything is hard in life. That's what I've learned. Yeah, every startup is hard, but the opportunities for us for this transition look amazing. How did you start? I know you're a solar developer before, and how did the EV picture come? Was there something personal or something opportunity?
That's a great question. Yeah, growing up, I was an environmentalist, I believe. So planting trees in high school, and then I went to college. Undergrad, I studied environmental engineering before doing a master's degree in leadership and business. So 2012, we started a solar energy business to tackle the issue of lack of electricity in Africa through green, cleaner electricity. But then we realized that people don't just need electricity for the sake of having light in their house or watching TV. People want electricity for productive use. They want to be able to use electricity to generate revenues. So that's when we started to introduce productive use of equipment within the access to electricity sphere. We did a lot of solar water pumps for irrigation for farmers. So it's along those lines that we decided to tackle the issue of dirty transportation, as we call it, by bringing in cleaner, greener mode of transportation and fueling it with cleaner electricity.
No, excellent. So now I know, from what I heard, you have been in clean tech for a long time, even including your education, your college degree. So this may be very natural for you after Z Motors to come to COP. What advice would you give to other startups in clean tech? Our experience is that, COP, one of the things, even for us, last year was the first time we came to COP. The question was, why is this relevant to us for startups? Over the last few years, we're seeing that people are starting to think startups can play a role in this fight for climate change. What advice would you give to other entrepreneurs looking at building their solutions and looking at how to connect to the wider community?
One thing I would say is it's really easy to launch a venture by yourself. You will not go far. It's easy to start. You will not go far. It's very difficult to get a group of people together to launch a venture, especially when it's a diverse group of people. Coming to events like COP, you will get to meet like-minded people, smarter people than you, that you can collaborate with, work with to build your venture for success. It's better to start doing the hard work and have your startup have a lifetime of legacy than do what's easy, which is start by yourself, and see your startup die after 3 years. So
I totally agree.
Me being here for the first time after 3 days, what I'm telling myself today is if I have known, I have been coming to COP every year.
I think that's a big lesson for all of the startups that we're going to take back from this. We have a lot of startups in our portfolio that don't come to COP or don't even think about coming to COP. So this is really great advice. We are in the UAE for this COP. How do you look at the UAE ecosystem? Do you think, where does it fit in? Do you see opportunities here that you can leverage?
I still have another week here to really explore the business environment and the investment environment in the UAE. But one thing I've realized walking down the street is that they have a lot of delivery service drivers on two-wheelers. So one goal I have in mind is if any startup or anyone in the UAE is interested in converting all those two-wheelers, petrol-based two-wheelers into electric, we are happy to collaborate for free. We'll provide our time.
Z Motors in UAE. Love it. I have a last question. Do you have that jacket in extra large? I feel it has a nice Batman kind of feel. Love it.
I will talk to my team and we can provide. Thank you.
Well, thank you. This is great. It's great to see the EV transitioning growing in everywhere, including in Africa, West Africa. It's always a tough process. Sometimes you look at the successes of startups and think it was easy. Even the successful ones struggle. But it's important, and thank you for your effort in supporting the fight for climate change in Africa.
Thank you guys for the work you are doing. I know it's a very difficult job, and we have to do it. Someone needs to do it. So thank you.